Okay, welcome everyone to our seminar this evening, and thank you for joining us for opportunities through 1031 exchange. And we are going to be recording this, so if anybody has any questions or miss any portion of it, you'll be welcome to join back in with us at some point later. I'm sorry, so you'll be welcome to see the recording. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead. I think most of you know me. I'm Jean Joe, the broker and owner of Perisson Real Estate. We are a small company that started at the end of 2016, and Perisson, the name, comes from the Greek word for abundance and overflow. And the whole purpose behind our company, or the principle upon which we're founded, is the principle of abundance. And we truly believe that we can help one another because we have already received so much, and be able to really, we're committed to wanting to provide value and helping each other to thrive. And these seminars we've been holding pretty much since the very beginning of the company, and we've been wanting to, it's an outgrowth of that, wanting to provide value to others around us. So you always start these off with a real estate market update, and I will do so here, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible because I really would like to get to the heart of the meeting today. And I used this last time, and I really like this graphic because it's a lot of what people are thinking. You know, we started out the year, and over the past several years, we've had increases in home prices. And we were starting out actually in February. It was started out very well. And then it seemed to be heating up quite a bit. And then the coronavirus, as you can recognize here, hit. And we've been seeing, you know, especially right after the shelter-in-place started, we did see a significant decrease in activity, in real estate activity. So just going into the data here, the first that I'll call up is the new listings. Number of new listings. So we see here, this is for single family homes in San Mateo County, and over the past 5 years. So as you can see, you see the ups and the downs. The downs are for the end of the year, beginning of the year, because usually for the holidays, people don't want to list their homes. So we would see a decrease there. Oops, sorry. And so we did see that going up. And as you can see for 2020, for 2020, we did start to see that rise, and then we had the shelter in place happen, and so significantly the number of new listings went down. And then as time has gone by over the last 2 months, now it's starting to tick up again, but we're still not seeing a huge amount of inventory yet to make up for the difference. It's about a 30% decrease from the same period last year. I was listening to a webinar from the chief economist of CAR, or California Association of Realtors, yesterday, and she said basically you can think of May and June like we would normally do January and February, where you would see the buyer demand, buyers are getting ready to go, but the sellers were still not quite ready, and they're just starting to put homes on the market. And so she was kind of equating it to that, and I think that's a very accurate way to describe it. So again, about a 30% decrease in May compared to last year, which is significant because April and May are usually our big months. Jumping to number of closed sales. So again, you see that same pattern over the last 5 years, which makes sense because as you have more listings, then you would have more sales. And this year, as of May, we had a 45% decrease in the number of sales compared to the same period last year. So just to compare it, because April and May, sometimes they're paired together. So April and May in 2018, we had 824 closed sales. In April and May of 2019, we had 825 closed sales, which is almost exactly the same number. And then in the April and May of this year, we've had 444. So that's a 45% decrease. That's the 45% decrease in the number of closed sales. And that makes sense because our number of listings went down significantly as people were holding off of putting their homes on the market. This next one, days on market, I don't know if you can tell. For May, it was 0. And I'm going to stop using this metric for a little bit, because what happened is in our local MLS, the multiple listing service, they actually froze the timeline. So days on market did not count starting from the shelter in place on March 17th, and then it did not start up again until May 16th. So anything that went on the market before the March 17th period, if it was 10 days on the market, it just froze right at 10 days. And then that time clock didn't start ticking again until May 17th. And so even if it didn't sell until end of May, it could effectively look as if it took only a week and a half to sell. So, and then now it went down, our median days on market went down to 0 for May, and probably this metric is going to be thrown off for several months to come. The months of inventory, likewise, is a little bit skewed because of that, but I do include it here because we always like to count that as basically this, the months of inventory show when, is that metric that shows whether we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. And it's basically saying, if we would take the number of homes that are on the market right now, and how long would it take us to sell all of that inventory if going at the same rate that we have been? And usually 6 months traditionally is considered a balanced market. Anything above that is the buyer's market, and anything below that is the seller's market. And in this case, we've been in a seller's market pretty much since I've been doing these seminars and market updates. And as you can see here, over the past 5 years, we've hovered somewhere around the 1.5 mark. So strong seller's market. And even at the peak that you see here at 2.4 months of inventory for April, and then for May, 2.2 months of inventory, that is higher than we've seen over the last 5 years, but it's by no means taking us into the buyer's market territory. And I would also add, there's that caveat that we still had that days on market that was frozen. So that does impact the rate at which homes are selling when that calculation. So this is still, even with that in mind, we're still looking at a market where the level of inventory is still quite low. Let's see, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong direction. So now median sale price, we saw basically there's been this upward trend over the past 5 years. We did see, as we're entering 2020, that the home prices were going up. So this peak that you see here is February, and that was at 1,731,000 for the median sale price. So it's very high. And it did take a little bit of a dip in April. And then for May, we had a $1.643 million as the median sale price. So basically, this is the price at which for the single family homes, you have the same number of homes selling above that price as for below. And just to think about the fact that it's at 1.6 million is still staggering. It's still very strong. It does represent for May a 68% drop from, 6.8% drop from 2019, which is not that bad. And then it's still higher than 2018 levels. So it's 4% higher than May of 2018. So even though you see this zigzag going up and down, pretty much the same. And I've been meeting with different homeowners for their specific property. And for the most part, I'm almost telling them their prices are pretty much the same either as 2018 or 2019, even though I've been talking to people with single family homes, with condos, with townhomes, still the prices have been relatively the same. And then finally, I will go to price per square foot. I don't always show this metric, but it's just interesting to see. I would discount this one here because one realtor entered wrong information for that month. But on the whole, we've seen that trending from about 800 in 2015 and 2016, and then trending upward, and then you see this 1,000 mark. So as of May, we were still seeing for single family homes $987 per square foot. So about $1,000 per square foot, still holding steady for single family homes in San Mateo County. So looking ahead to 2020, this is a slide that I had in February, in my February presentation. This is before we knew what was going to happen with coronavirus. It was in the news for sure, but I don't think we even had any cases here at the time in California, but or known cases. And this is what I had said in 2020, which is low inventory levels would be the main factor, would be the main talking point. The global economy was a question mark because there was some talk of recession already happening at the time. Coronavirus was already in the news, but we didn't know if that would be, what kind of impact that would have. Housing affordability issues, because again, the median sale price has been around 1.6, 1.7 for the last many months. And then the election coming up, that this would be an election year, that would be another question mark, not just nationally what would happen, but also statewide initiatives. And we will be having a seminar on that as well. So this is what I had said in February, and it's pretty much the same, except coronavirus is not so much a question mark. We know that it's had a huge impact compared to other items. But having said that, I would say low inventory levels are still the name of the game. Still the game right now. We did see with the shelter in place a lot of buyers who kind of backed off a bit, but because the interest rates are so low, are continuing to stay low, most of those buyers have come back. In our office, I would say I only know of one case where someone was laid off or had a job shift in their employment. Everyone else has been relatively unaffected, even with the stock market going up and down. So the buyers, for the most part, still very strong demand. And if anything, the inventory levels actually took a much greater hit than the buyer levels. And so what we considered as an inventory shortage coming into this year was exacerbated by COVID-19. And hopefully that will start easing up, and we are even as our office is having more and more inventory coming online. But that is going to continue to be the main factor. So between low inventory and coronavirus, it's kind of we'll see, which one wins out overall. So what will the recovery look like? You've probably heard of the V-shaped curves, the L-shaped curves. I don't know if you've heard of L-shaped, but W-shaped recovery, a swoosh recovery. We still don't know what will happen. Right now, we are actually almost seeing a V-shaped curve, or for us, at least in real estate, that I've seen. It remains to be seen what will happen as the state starts, all the county and states start opening up, and what happens with coronavirus. I think that will be one of the biggest considerations. So, and then finally, I just wanted to give you an update a little bit about real estate and COVID-19, how it's changed for us. I mentioned before we started that I've been on multiple I'm zooming on Zoom meetings and other group online meetings constantly, sometimes some at the same time, where I'm toggling back and forth. And a lot of it has to do with the changing standards and us needing to keep up with the requirements that we have. So one of the things that's definitely been impacted is our showings. So we're doing many more virtual showings, online showings. Our company has been using 3D tours for many years now, but it's becoming more commonplace where you'll have a 3D tour and actually look at homes online and almost do a walkthrough before you even see it. Virtual staging is something that people have been using, not as often, but we actually had a listing office where we did that, and they're able to remove even existing furniture, and put in new furniture. They can change paint colors on walls, a whole host of things that also opens up the potential where we need to be careful to not be false advertising. So we want to be able to stage it in a way that people can, sometimes it's not feasible to do the physical staging. And so there's that option. Virtual open houses where the agent is on site and we actually take you through the open house. I would say more than anything, the photos are more important than ever, because it is a little more difficult to go see any house. And so we want to make sure, so many people are eliminating homes or selecting for homes before they even get there. And so having the photos look good, having even virtual staging or whatnot is very important. Open houses as of right this moment are still not allowed. So that is something that may change. And then somebody asked, do you recommend virtual staging? I would say if you have a situation where you can't stage it physically for some reason, in this case, we had sellers who were still living there, and so they needed some basic furniture, then it is an option to have, and it's better than having a photo that is just a vacant room. And you can do some touch-ups to it. Some of the considerations about doing that is that you may have, you need to make sure liability-wise that you cover it well. And I've always been of the frame of mind that if you have a house that shows too well in photos and then someone gets there and it looks very different, that could turn people off. So, ultimately, before somebody writes an offer on a home, they do want to see it in person. And so if you have a choice, I would rather stage it physically if I could. But it just also depends on the type of property and the specific situation. So, but that's something that we're having to literally reach into our toolbox and, have everything available. So we can do scheduled private showings, whether the owners still live there or not. It is limited as of now. For our association rules, it's limited to 2 members of the same household plus their agent. And there are some sellers, especially if you're living there, you don't want everyone coming in to see the house. So some sellers have the option, or all sellers have the option, to request a copy of the pre-approval letter or some proof of funds to show that a buyer is serious before they can even make an appointment. There are pros and cons to that as well, because I know some buyers who will not want to show their financial documents to, when they haven't even seen the house yet and they're not sure they even want to go there. So you may lose some buyers. But on the other hand, if you have a specific situation where it's difficult to show, especially if the seller is living on the property, then that might make sense. So I've seen both, and it really depends on the situation. As much as possible, we try to encourage people to see the house. So we want to make it easy for them to do that. But there are situations where it may call for trying to limit that down. And new safety protocols, we have, I call it the PED form, or we all call it a PED form. It's a property entry advisory and disclosure form. And it initially was a 2-page form. Now it's a 7-page form. And it basically, if you're going to enter a house, the seller needs to sign it to allow you to enter. Any visitor, whether it be the buyer, a contractor, a photographer, they all need to sign the form saying, certifying that they're healthy, that they haven't been exposed to anybody with COVID, and that they will let us know if they have been, and also agreeing to practice all the safety protocols. PPE, and so as a listing office, I've been busy going to stores and stocking up. So we are required to provide PPE, so masks, in case people don't have them already, gloves, shoe coverings, have disinfectant available, hand wipes or hand sanitizer, and technically to disinfect the property before and after every showing. So again, as you can imagine, it's gotten a little more, there's a little more work involved with showing a property, but we're doing it, and people are actually going out. I've been actively showing property, and it'll be interesting to see how this progresses. So I will end with that. If you have any more specific questions, please feel free to just contact me. I'd be happy to talk you through those.